Welcome to the Chronically Will podcast, where we hold real conversations with community members that need to be heard. On today's episode, I have the honor of speaking with Ivory. Ivory is someone that has been living with type 1 diabetes going on 18 years. So this year, her diabetes is legal, y'all. Ivory is also the host of her own podcast, InnerViews. And Ivory is someone who I've followed for a short while now. And I do know a bit about her backing, but I'm going to let Ivory tell you herself who she is. Welcome, Ivory.
Thank you for having me. And hi, everyone. So my name is Ivory Bennett. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am originally from Pittsburg, Pennsylvania, but I have lived all across the United States of America. I have had type 1 diabetes since I was 16 years old. And as Will shared earlier, yes, my diabetes is legal this year. It can vote. Stay tuned. I also spent 17 years in foster care, and I truly, truly, truly believe that the trauma and the chronic stress of living in the child welfare system is the biggest reason why I developed type 1 diabetes. We can talk more about that a little bit later. I have a bachelor's, I have a master's, I've been an English teacher at Title I schools. I now work at a media company where I get to work with youth and train them in basic journalism skills to tell their stories about their experiences in child welfare. So not just foster care, but juvenile justice, homelessness, and beyond. And I am also a writer and an artist and a health enthusiast and so many other things. You can follow me on social media, Ivory Bennett. You can listen to me on my podcast, InnerViews. You can hire me to work with your youth or to be a panelist or to do lots and lots of things. So add me on LinkedIn. Send me an email, ivory.bennett@yahoo.com, ivory@fosteringmediaconnections.org. I will gladly connect with you all. And thank you so much for having me here today.
You're welcome, Ivory. Like I said, it's a true honor to have you. I love this space because we get people that look like us that who we don't normally see across all feeds. And we're able to not only show who we are, but present in a way for our people to really want to be able to actually show who they are as well. Because we know when we deal or we know someone who looks like us who are living or going through something, it almost like gives us a reflection that I can, I will, I shall, they will do the things that they choose to do to better help manage their own care. And that's not only just physical, that's mental, because we know in this day and age, I mean, our parents may have not been given the opportunity to learn more and get more in depth with the inner works of emotional well-being, mental health, because we know it's a 50-50 physical health, mental health. You can't have one without the other. And Ivory, I feel like the introduction you just gave me was like everything, because I used to tell people that I used to consider myself like a spray nine cleaner. I don't know if you remember that. Spray nine cleaner was like all purpose.
I do, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was like nothing that we didn't like. It did not. It could not clean. Like it could cut grease. It could clean the floors. Like you can even use it in your laundry.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're like, you remind me so much of myself. Like
Yeah.
I do have a traumatic background as well. Also, I've been an educator for many years, working with youth through the foster system, through alternative schooling and programs, running my own fatherhood program. Like, I feel as though after this recording, I need to be on your show. And I mean,
please, I'd love to have you. Yeah. You're welcome anytime.
Because I know that in this space myself, like I've had guests, but I've only had less than a handful of men that look like me. Like seriously.
Yeah.
And that's a great need.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's a lot of work. So
Look,
from one podcaster to another, I get it.
It's a lot of work, but I truly enjoy having these conversations. I truly enjoy helping others share their stories and just gifting a platform for you to be unapologetically yourself. Now,
Me too.
and just for you to be on right now, because you did mention pre-recording about concern that your mother is going through. So
Mhm.
again, if you need to leave at any time, just let me know, even if that means just holding up one finger, because we can always resume this. But one thing we can't resume is once there's a great pause in his life, you know? It's like
Mhm. Mhm.
us living with diabetes. We can't take that pause.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. I wish we could take a pause. I wish
So,
I wish I could take a vacation from type 1 diabetes.
um,
The things that I would do, even if it was just a day, even if it was just 2 days, I think the tragedy of being diagnosed later in life, as like a teenager or an adult, is that you know what life felt like before. Like I know, and I was really into athleticism and sports and dancing. I know what it's like to dance without having to worry about your blood sugar. I know what it's like. I was in track, like around the time that I was diagnosed. I know what it's like to run without having to worry about your blood sugar. And that is the thing that I think torments me the most because I miss how my body physically felt. It felt stronger. It felt more resilient. Um, I could push myself harder. Now, we could argue that that's not necessarily the best thing, but it is something that I miss. And trying to reclaim that, it's just not the same. It'll never be the same. And I think that's a grief that we don't often talk about when living with type 1 diabetes or any chronic illness. Um, it slowed me down in a lot of ways. I'm still grappling with that. I don't know about you. I struggle to find gratitude for my type 1 diabetes.
for many years myself, I told everyone how much, like, I seriously hated type 1
Yeah,
diabetes.
yeah,
And the hate is is a word of passion. So
yeah.
it's not used often. And like my children, I tell them like not to use that term at
Hmm. Hmm.
all.
Hmm.
Um, but it was a true hate until I actually learned more about it, joined more communities,
Hmm.
because joining communities and actually helping people navigate the health systems and all of that, as a public health advocate, has helped me with things such as burnout, because I
Hmm.
know that, I mean, I'm going through it, and we know, like, even without diabetes, if we're going through something, but if we see someone else that's going through it,
Yeah.
like even to a higher extent of our own,
Hmm.
we always extend that olive branch to them,
Yeah, yeah.
and in return we receive more of a, like, a grace gratitude.
Yeah. Community has been essential for me in coping with having this chronic illness. I will say my life changed. I first found community when I was 19 or 20 at the University of Pittsburgh. I met my first diet bestie. I saw her pump hanging out of her pants in math class. We were in some kind of math class. And I was like, hey, do you have type 1 diabetes? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes, I do. And so that for me really changed the trajectory of how I was able to show up for myself in this illness and how I was able to cope with this illness. Um, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I have gratitude. I don't have gratitude, but I have come to the conclusion that if I hate type 1 diabetes, I'm also hating my body. And I don't ever want to, like you, I feel hate is a very strong word. I don't use it lightly and I don't use it often. And I never try to use that in context of people, because it's just such a powerful, serious thing to me. But I have struggled with feelings of hate for type 1 diabetes, but I also know and hold as a dual truth, a dual reality, a dual existence, a double consciousness, if you will, that if I hate my type 1 diabetes, I'm also hating my body. And that is something that we can't tolerate around here because this body has shown up for me in ways that I don't even know all of. This body is carrying generations, this
Mhm.
body is holding the eggs of my future children and their children and their children. This body has endured things that most people couldn't survive. And so who am I? Who am I to hate my body for responding to 17 years of child welfare trauma? Who am I to hate my body for responding to centuries of epigenetic trauma from my ancestors and the things that they endured in slavery, in Reconstruction, in geez, and people who I physically touched and knew in the 1900s, all the way from 1927 when my grandmother was born through, 1940s and 50s, my family has personally experienced so much trauma that is tied directly to racism, tied directly to Ku Klux Klan members, tied directly to systemic and institutional oppression. Who am I to judge my body for existing in the way that it is, especially if I'm not doing all that I can to help it and support it? And so, in saying that, I do the best that I can to take care of myself. I've always been health conscious. I have a quick story that I want to share. Is that okay?
Share it.
Okay. So when I was 12 years old, I was overweight. I've always been overweight, right? And there's so many different reasons for that. My older sister has anorexia, so my mom always made me eat more than I was probably supposed to eat. But I've always just been bigger, a little thick. So when I was 12, my doctor told me, he was like, you need to lose weight or you're going to develop type 2 diabetes. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm not about to be like Big Mama and soul food. We're not cutting off my leg, and that's that, And so I was like, that's not something that I want to experience. I don't want to have type 2 diabetes. What can I do to help that? And the doctor was like, eat healthy, exercise. Period. So at 14, I lost 50 pounds on my own. I was exercising. I was eating well. I had to learn how to do all these things because no one taught me. Of course, like being in foster care, people don't teach you anything. They just assume that you're born with knowledge of life in the world, I guess. So I had to learn how to do these things on my own. And being the curious person that I was, the intellectual kid that I was able to do it. And I lost 50 pounds. I was very healthy, very athletic. When I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 16, it was just such a shock because I was literally in track season. And I did track just for exercise. I'm not a track star, but I did it just to exercise. I was doing volleyball. I was the leader of my church's dance ministry. I did musicals and just a whole bunch of other stuff, just because I knew the importance of keeping healthy and exercising. And so it was just such a blow to my ego to develop type 1 after having this motivation to not develop type 2. Right. And I think it's that, like, for lack of a better words, mind F sometimes. Because it's like the general public doesn't know much about diabetes, and they definitely don't know as much about type 1 as they do about type 2. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it really bothers me that people assume type 1 and type 2 are the same thing. And people will often assume that if you're diabetic, that's because you don't eat properly, you eat too much sugar, you don't exercise, you have a sedentary lifestyle. When that's just not the case, that's just not how it happens. And I also firmly believe they don't know enough about diabetes in general to even be able to differentiate or treat people appropriately. But there are some major differences between type 1 and type 2. And so I really hate it when people confuse type 2 with type 1. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I've often felt blamed or judged for having diabetes.
Yeah.
And it's like, people don't realize how healthy I am and how much work it takes to be just this healthy.
Right. You did everything that was available to make sure that you set yourself up to succeed in life physically, especially after the emotional and mental trauma that preceded that. So when you were given this diagnosis, it was a big, like, why, how, me, this person in this body. And I mean, the traumatic experiences that we do occur in our evolution as a being, even ancestral, they do truly impact our physical well-being as well. And that's a conversation that's never brought up in any space, seriously, because like you mentioned, like culturally.
Oh my goodness, like the social impact on your diabetes is so real. The stress of being a Black person and having type 1 diabetes is so real. You don't know how many times. So, I found my community in college in person, and then I was like, oh, there's more people out here. They're online. They're in groups, and so I'm in these groups, and this is not to hyper focus on race, but it is to highlight that race impacts health outcomes and, impacts health disparities particularly. And I would see all these like white women who have like, like 3 A1Cs. I'm being facetious, right? They're like, I only use 12 units of insulin a day and my A1C is 5.5. And you just have to, practice yoga and live a healthy lifestyle. And it's like, I love that
But
for them.
let
I
me
love
let me
that.
let me interject real quick though. I'm going to have to link you, and I've told many people here. There's a guest that I've interviewed with,
Hmm.
a middle-aged woman who actually has been living with the A1C below 4.6 for many years. A woman
4.6.
that looks like us.
What's the average blood sugar of 4.6? Do you know?
I think it's 80, it's like 86, I believe. Yes.
Does she live life?
She
That's my
does,
biggest question.
and she has had A1Cs like 9,
Yeah.
11, but she did a huge transition, and yes, and
Wow.
she's been helping a lot of people in the community get there as well.
That's
And
beautiful.
I had a conversation with her. I'm like, does that put a lot of like mental strain on you? And she's like, no. Once I eliminated certain things, I
Hmm.
never, I never retracted and went back to them. And
Hmm.
she's doing amazing.
Is she like super low carb or something? Like,
She is.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. I
She
mean, the
is.
other thing that,
She wasn't always, but she is today.
yeah, yeah. No, I love that for her. And maybe that'll be me one day. But it is difficult. I think the other thing about having type 1 diabetes is you really have to low key be a scientist. Like you have to understand the
Look.
phases of the body. I remember my doctor showed, I'm so grateful, first of all, that I was diagnosed in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a lot of amazing hospitals and medical facilities, and we have a lot of teaching hospitals and universities here too. So it's like I've gotten the best of the best from the very beginning, right? It got tricky when I moved to different parts of the United States, actually, but at least I had that as my foundational experiences with type 1 diabetes and getting to know myself. I say all that to say is that I've had a few endocrinologists show me graphs and charts, particularly of hormonal fluctuations throughout the different phases of life. I don't know if you would have ever like come across that or anything, but long story short, it was talking about how like your body goes through different phases in your 20s, particularly like the middle to the end of your 20s. There's like a huge spike in all these like hormone shifts and changes. And that's usually when a lot of people struggle with their type 1 diabetes. They'll have a lot of like uncontrollable highs, hyperglycemias, and it's really just tied to like your body going through these different developmental and growth stages. But if you don't know that and you're just suddenly finding yourself incredibly high for no reason, like nothing has shifted in your
Mhm.
life, you're not doing anything different per se, it can be really frustrating and overwhelming. And I often think about, you mentioned working with students. I've been a teacher for several years as well, how this disease is unkind, and that if you lack literacy skills, or if you lack comprehension skills, or even if you just lack basic math and logic and reasoning, it can be really, really overwhelming and difficult to live with this disease and to live healthily and well. Um, I mean, we're constantly churning math in our brains, even if we have pumps, even if we have CGMs. Like the amount of basic division and multiplication, subtraction and addition that I do every hour on the hour is crazy. And
It,
I
it,
can't,
it it's beyond crazy, and that's something I just jotted down. So I put in there like growth hormones.
yeah.
We know like if like parents that are raising young people,
Hmm.
toddlers with type 1 diabetes, you
Mm.
see this regularly where the parent is trying to like they're dumbfounded. Where like
Yeah.
what happened overnight, that occurs with us in that 20s to 30 age
Yeah.
range, that age
Yeah.
bracket. We seriously go through a transitional process from that adolescent teen to now we're truly adults.
Hmm.
And beyond living with a chronic health condition such as type 1 diabetes, it's something that we don't see, we wouldn't notice. And that's
Hmm.
something that needs to be shared through our hospital or emergent care, our doctors, physicians, NPRs, PAs. Like that's something that should be shared, a growth hormone chart for each developmental stage, because
Yeah.
as we're
Hmm.
young, they share those developmental stage and milestones. That is a developmental milestone right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Absolutely. Yeah. And it will have you feeling defeated if you don't know that that's what's happening to you. And it'll also hinder and delay appropriate treatment plans. And it can just be very discouraging, to be frank, right? It's like you're doing
Yes.
everything that you possibly can do. Life is still gonna life. And then on top of all that, your A1C has the nerve to be 8 or 9, and you haven't done anything differently. You're doing the best that you can. It's really discouraging, especially for me. I was like a perfectionist before I was diagnosed.
I am
So
still a
this
perfectionist.
I'm a recovering perfectionist because I refuse to let that ruin the rest of my life. I
Mhm.
cannot go on in that capacity. And I think type 1 diabetes has definitely called attention to how it actually is not helping me, but harming me in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
So I'm going to claim that I'm a recovering perfectionist. But for someone who cares so deeply about their own existence and the work that they do and how they show up in the world, it can be discouraging to look at the numbers sometimes. The other thing that you made me think of was culturally competent caregivers, culturally competent practitioners. I have been blamed so much by certain doctors or nurses that I'm not doing all that I can. I remember when I was just talking to my sister about this, and I think my therapist yesterday too. When I was 19, 20-ish, 20-ish actually would have been more like it. My mom almost died when I was a sophomore at the University of Pittsburgh. My stress levels were up the roof. Okay, I had about 15 to 18 credits. I don't know why. I had 3 jobs. I was about to age out of foster care. My mom almost died. I was in the ICU constantly. And I would go to the endocrinologist as we're supposed to, right? And they'd be like, "Oh, just stress less." Like they're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing with your life?" And I'm like, "I'm really stressed. I don't think you understand. Like I'm really stressed out right now." And they're like, "That's it? Okay, well, we'll do better. Take some walks. Like, drink more water." I'm like, that doesn't that doesn't quite cut it. That doesn't quite hold compassion for my lived experience as a human. It doesn't hold space for, yes, this is a really difficult time. Let us do what we can to support you. And, maybe call us more. Maybe we'll do weekly phone check-ins to adjust your insulin. We're going to help you get there. I think there's a lot of blame assigned, which can lead to shame and just again, not good feelings about having to live with the reality of this disease. And then also, you mentioned something that made me think about gender. We're I love all kinds of people. I'm LGBTQ2S plus friendly. However, when we think about the impact of gender on those growth stages and those hormonal shifts, it also can really deeply impact our care and how we're healthy or not healthy. And I'm not sure that's talked about enough either.
Right.
So, yeah, I know that
So
was a lot.
it, I jotted down a few things. So just to project off of what you were saying, like diabetes in general is a traumatic experience. It-
Traumatic.
Second
Yeah.
by second, day by day, year by year, like it's traumatic from upon diagnosis.
Mhm.
Um, no doctor asks about our background.
Mhm.
I mean, they see us as black or brown people. But at the same time, when you're diagnosed with something traumatic, such as type 1 diabetes,
Mhm.
there should also be, with that endocrinologist, there should be a trauma therapist
Yes.
that also a light is lit for.
Mhm.
Because if we were to receive those services upon diagnosis, it would help us mentally prepare for the math, the science, because as I told my wife recently, I said I could have went through, I could have skipped middle school and high school math because upon diagnosis, I was diagnosed at 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've always been great in math and
Yeah.
science and things like that. But today, the linear equations that I do, the graphing I do, the pre-calc, all of those things, like the things that I learned in school have
Yes.
nothing compared to my
It's
lived experience
nothing.
as a
Mhm.
person living with type 1 diabetes. Like
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
never ending. And it,
It's exhausting too, because
it's
it's like, life will be happening. You'll have some of the most amazing moments in life. Like you'll be jumping into a waterfall off a cliff, or you'll be getting an award acceptance speech, or, you'll be watching the birth of your child and you're like, oh, what's my blood sugar? What did I eat? Am I hydrated enough? Like, wait, when is my pump going to be empty? Like, do I need to time this appropriately? Can you wait? Don't push the baby out all the way. Like, let me check my blood sugar. And it's just like such an intrusive, it's an invasive, intrusive
it's
disease.
very intrusive. When you think of like
Yeah.
even like I remember my wedding day, and that was 2013. I tell
Yeah.
my wife like some things that occurred during that time, like I truly don't remember because I didn't have a clear scope of my blood sugar. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was high at the time because I went years in the 8 to 11 range. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not know the true effects that it would have on me because I was just living life, you know. But now when I do look back on like wedding photos and videos and things, I'm like, great that I have these because in the moment, other than like the actual ceremony, the reception was like
A blur.
I'm so happy that everything was planned. Like seriously.
That is so frustrating too. And like, I don't know about you, even just like wondering, I'm tubeless now, so that's fantastic. But I had Medtronic for a long time and they have the longest tubes that looks like CVS receipt length tubes. And it used to get caught on stuff. I would have to like tuck it, I would like tape it, I would put little clips on just because it was just out of control, right? And so even thinking about, okay, where am I going to put my pump so that it doesn't rip out or show or get in the way? I was just in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago jumping off of a waterfall into like a 20-foot drop, like little
Right.
thing, right? So fun, such an adventure, such a thing that my soul needed. It was so joyful. When I got out of the water, what was gone? What was at the bottom of that 20-foot thing of water?
Your
My,
lifeline.
my lifeline, my transmitter, my sensor, my insulin pump, all gone, all gone. And, you know, I was like, fuck it. Excuse my French.
Yep.
It's okay. It's like, did I have to pay 200 and something dollars to get a new one? I did. I did. But it's like we have to think about this constantly because I was also without insulin and without blood sugar numbers for like an hour to 90 minutes because we were in the middle of the jungle in Puerto Rico. And so it's just like having to also leverage the risk of what you're doing in life and trying to plan accordingly, whether that means intentionally letting yourself be high because it feels safer and more controlled than hypoglycemia and being low, or thugging it out because you're, you know, CGM and your pump are at the bottom of a ravine in the
Thug it
middle
out. Thug it out.
of Puerto Rico. You know, you just have to make these decisions constantly. And these are not things that people who are able-bodied or living without chronic illness, specifically type 1 diabetes, even have to consider. So
Yeah.
what if
Just think like if we wanted to go to a certain concert, show, sporting event, just being inside there, we always lose signal.
yes,
That's
that
something
too.
that's
Or being around other pumpers, the
right.
worst. Or if you have to change your pod, I have Omnipod and Dexcom right now.
Same.
And I feel like it's so sensitive. Like if another pump is around me, it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? You know, and I'm like, these are things that people just don't have to think about. I love to travel internationally as well too, but with that comes packing, a whole bunch of packing. I need a lot of space just for my medical supplies. And sometimes I go to countries and places that are not going to have replacements, right? And so being mindful that, you know, hey, if we go to this place, this third world country, they're not going to have replacement transmitters. So you need to either come accordingly or be prepared to thug it out and go back to the old ages and check your blood sugar with your fingers. So I mean, you know, at this point, I'm all about adventure. I'm all about leveraging those risks and just letting it happen because life is too short to not. But it is something that it requires great consideration and preparation. I feel like it's really hard to be spontaneous, is really what I'm saying. It's really hard to be spontaneous with this illness. And I'm choosing to do it no matter what. So,
yeah, they say that as persons living with type 1 diabetes, we make upwards of 180 more decisions per day. When I see that number, I shake my head because I'm like 180. If that's it.
Plus all the teacher decisions that we've had to make as educators, plus all the decisions.
From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, even while we're sleeping, we're making decisions.
While we're asleep, I was going to say, forget the sleep because I don't know about you, but I dream about type 1 diabetes. I dream about all kind of stuff. And it's actually terrible. But it dawned on me that I usually don't see myself in my dreams with my pump or my Dexcom, actually. That's not something that usually occurs, but I will dream about either eating or drinking or like being concerned. I will dream about being concerned about my type 1 diabetes, but you know, that's neither here nor there. Sleep though, that's a whole nother conversation. I have not slept the same since I've been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And that's something I miss because the sleep that I had before type 1 diabetes, A1, the sleep after,
Right, the naps. People be like, "Oh, you're not feeling well. Take a nap." Are you? Or what are you trying to do to me? Like seriously, you want me to take a nap because I'm not feeling well? Uh,
Listen, we gonna
not
be
an
sick all
option.
day.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna wake up sleeping with glucagon shot through my body.
But listen, hypoglycemic sleep is the best. I hate
I know. I'm telling you, it is the absolute best. I've had dreams like I was on a forever vacation, like
forever.
seriously, like swimming with the whales and the sharks
That
type
is
of things.
scary though, because it's like us dying essentially.
It
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 really is.
it is
But
like
it feels so euphoric. I've never done drugs, but
never.
I imagine that's probably what it feels like. That has to be like what some of them might feel like, right? It just is
Right.
the most euphoric body experience. I don't know about you, but like for me, I feel calm. I don't feel like too hot or too cold. I mean, when you wake up, usually you are like sweating or something like
Sweating.
that. Yeah, crazy
Yeah,
and shaking.
I had a guy in 10th grade. I haven't seen him since then, but he used to tell me about like how he used to pop shrooms. And I
Okay.
remember we're in 10th grade algebra 2 class, and he's talking about one time he popped so, and he said he was looking at the TV and popcorn was popping out at him. And he said he just started eating it like the popcorn was just flowing. And he was like, he couldn't get it enough. So he went and grabbed the TV and started shaking it.
Oh my
And
God.
like, I've never ever taken any drug. I don't drink. I don't do any of those things, but
Mhm.
just that experience of him telling me that, like, sometimes when I see people and they're going through certain trips and whatnot, I'm like, oh, they're having like, yeah, popcorn.
It's incredibly euphoric.
Yeah.
I mean, rest in peace to anyone who has actually passed away from hypoglycemia because
Yes, yes, it's a
that is
serious.
not a wonderful thing. It is a very serious health condition that we unfortunately have to deal with quite often. Um, and it can feel deceivingly good, but that's because it's your body shutting down and preparing to die. And so, the fact that type 1 diabetics actually experience that often is crazy and radical, to say the least, but it is
I,
a lived reality.
I've never actually heard anyone put it the way you just put it. Your body preparing to die. It's almost
Hmm.
like when you hear someone speak of seeing the light or
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
tunnel, the open tunnel, and them not fearing it at all. Like
Mm-mm.
it's a place of joy, a place
Hmm.
of beauty.
Hmm.
And this is the first time I've actually heard someone put it that way.
I mean,
So
it is,
it
right?
is, it
It,
is. Yeah.
it gives me hope, ultimately. I mean, I think about death, and for this is about to get really morbid and dark, but like, just
Um,
go.
this is a conversation. I'm telling you, I've had
I
these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think about death every day. Especially today when hearing the news about my mom, hopefully everything works out, but who knows, it might not, right? But I think about my own morbidity every single day, and sometimes it freaks me out because I've never died before. I've never done that. And I tell myself often, I'm like, you only have to do it once, girl. Like, it's not going to be that serious. Most people only die
Right.
one time.
E-
Um,
Even the like we get our quarterly lab
mhm. I
tests,
just got that back
blood
today.
withdrawals. Like
Yeah.
sometimes when we get those back and we see like red markers, and then we
Mhm.
have to go on Dr. Google to figure out what they are.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
People don't understand that as people living with a chronic health condition that
No, yeah, yeah.
we always endure that type of thing.
We're constantly grappling with our bodies, the health of our bodies. And I think we, fortunately or unfortunately, feel it more deeply than most people. I think a lot of us are, not all of us, but a lot of us are more in tune with our physical bodies. And for those of us who have connected the mind to the body, we're in tune with our mental and emotional health and well being as well. And I say all that today is I say that I think about death every single day. And the thing that freaks me out the most about it is the not breathing part. Cause like, anyone ever coughed out there?
Mhm.
Like, it can be freaky to not cough or to lose your breath or to not be able to breathe. And so I think that's the thing that really freaks me out the most. But then there's also moments where it's like, we were just mentioning the euphoria of hypoglycemia and how it actually doesn't feel painful at all. It feels a little anxiety provoking when you're not asleep. Like, so being hypo when you're sleeping versus being hypo when you're awake throughout the day during things, I feel like they're two different experiences, but I'm referring specifically to the one when you're already asleep and you're dreaming and you just go into a deeper level of relaxation and peace. Um, it's not a scary feeling. And I think, oddly enough, moments like that reassure me that death and dying don't have to be these violent, painful, uncomfortable things. But at the same time, it's just really morbid to think about that constantly. It really is.
And when you even have conversations with people about that experience, like they
Yeah.
truly don't understand what you're actually sharing with them. I remember having conversations with like my best friend and and that's one of my cousins, and telling him like I've met with death on so many different occasions. And I mean, growing up in the inner city, he's like, what do you mean? He's like, I've been shot at, blah, blah, blah. Like he talks about those things. And I'm like, that I couldn't prevent at all, just by my body's natural reaction to the insulin that I take. And like, for example, just last week, my wife wakes me up in the middle of the night, and I haven't had a severe hypo in a while. And she's waking me up. She's steady tapping me like, get up, get up, get up. She's like, and I'm steady pulling the covers and sheets off of me. She's like, Will, what are you doing? What are you? And she's like, here, take this, like she has like a cup of tea or whatever. And she's like, drink this. It's like some sweet tea. And I'm like, I'm okay. She's like, no, she pulls my phone out and shows it in front of me. And usually I don't remember these things.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, you're 46. I said, I'm okay. It's wrong. And look, I'm steady pulling the sheets and the cover. She's like, stop it. What are you doing?
You're cool. You're chill.
And she's steady pouring the tea in my mouth. She's like opening up these candies, like giving them to me. And I told her like I was good. I said, I'm having this dream. Listen, you're going to laugh. I said, I'm having this dream that I'm on top of a mattress. And I said, you know how the mattresses have the thick plastic around them? I said, there's mattresses on top of mattresses on top of mattresses. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of the mattress. Ivory. It was like the popcorn. Look, I said, I'm steady. I said, I'm ripping the plastic. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the mattress.
Oh my gosh. Geez.
And she's like looking at me like, Will, drink this tea. You're going to be fine. And she's like rubbing my back and everything. And like, I was like, the next day I said, babe, you should have just got that glucagon.
Don't want to get the glucagon, babe.
She was like, I didn't even think about it. She was like, I just was like, because I always sleep with like candy or juice next to me. She's like, I just grabbed what was there. But yeah, I've never tripped like that.
It is so difficult. Shout out to your wife too, because I know that being a spouse and a partner of someone with a chronic illness is not easy. So, but I'm imagining it's so much more reassuring, and it's just really nice to have someone who's equally invested in your health. Sometimes maybe even more, So that's a really, really beautiful thing. But like it is such a journey. I hate being low in the middle of the night for so many reasons. The first is practical, right? I sleep with retainers. And so anytime I have to wake up out of my sleep, first of all, waking up out of my sleep is just not fun. And the annoying sound that Dexcom makes, like, thank God it's life-saving, right? But it is just not peaceful at all. So being woken up in that regard, then I have to take my retainers out of my mouth, drink something, brush my teeth again. I have to wait for my blood sugar to come up. That's the thing that people don't understand. Waiting. There's so much waiting in type 1 diabetes. You have to wait for your blood sugar to come up. You have to wait for it to come down. And let me tell y'all something.
We gotta wait for customer service.
You gotta wait for replacement transmitters because yours is at the bottom of the ocean in Puerto Rico. You gotta wait for your paycheck to go pick up your prescription. It's a lot. It is. We didn't even touch on the financial aspect of having this designer disease. Okay, this is like the Gucci of like chronic. It is.
Well, and I remember being young, buying like Prada shoes and stuff, and I'm like, not today. I'm about to get this G6 transmitter.
You know how they do that outfit check? And it's like, how much are you wearing?
Oh, we should do that. Definitely do a fit check. Okay. Yeah.
Because the pump, let me tell you, the Dexcom and the Omnipod, those are expensive. Okay. Right. Those are expensive. Y'all have no idea how much we really be wearing every day. It's just a lot. It's a lot. But like having to wake up in the middle of the night, and also it disrupts your sleep. I like to tell people that having type 1 diabetes is like having a newborn baby that never grows up. right? You're constantly feeding it, constantly checking on it. It wakes you up in the middle of the night all the time, except it doesn't have the good smells that newborn babies have. And you don't get the cuddles. It's not cute. It's really not cute. I think one of the most traumatic elements of this disease for me has been watching my skin become discolored and changed from all the adhesive tapes, all of the shots. I used to have really clear skin everywhere, and then I wear my pump mostly on like my back of my arms or my stomach or my legs. And now I have like little dots everywhere. I have discoloration from the adhesive, a little bit of scarring, not too much. Um, and then the other side of that is like, yeah, knowing how to prevent that, right? But it's very expensive to prevent those things. Like, who can afford to go get full body massages every week to help break up that scar tissue? Who can afford to get microdermabrasion just for your adhesive discoloration? Like, there are things out there, but are they accessible to everyone?
Not. And also, even when we consider a lot of the different like skin adhesives for the
Mm-hmm.
for this technology that we use to help better our existence,
Mm-hmm.
and they're usually not fit for us.
Mm-mm.
Like we have to reach out to someone in the community who
Yeah.
decided to make one for our natural skin tone or color. And
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
like when we consider like just like the pumps that we use, like myself, I use Omnipod as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You gotta have this darker brown skin man with this white lump of coal on him, basically. Like that's what it looks like. Like seriously, like
It is such a
I
style killer.
mean, right. I mean, I don't mind wearing them and showing them, but seriously, like
It,
um
yeah,
little
it kills the look.
Johnny and Frankie aren't getting looked at with the eyes that I'm getting because it naturally just blends in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah. All the way down to medical tape. And again, it goes back to that cultural competency that's lacking in these design labs and these research places that are developing this technology. It's just not taken into consideration. Even things like, we moisturize as Black and
Hmm.
brown people. We use lots of oils and
Right.
lotions. They don't always account for that when they're making these adhesives. Like, I have had so many pumps fall off because my skin is moisturized. Like, there's only so much alcohol can do. If you're
Right.
not dry as heck out here, it's not going to stick. So also that's another cost that you have to incur, right? If you're adding additional adhesives to the top of your pumps or your CGMs to secure them. So it's just, I don't think people really realize that the more engaged you are in your healthcare with type 1 diabetes, yeah, you might know how to better navigate things, but you might not always be in a position to do so financially. It is a very expensive disease. And so it's layered.
Yeah, culturally, diabetes does not affect everyone the same. Just your ethnic background in general, like just because we're melanated,
Mm-hmm.
we have to spend more on these adhesives and things of that nature. And like you said, they don't take into consideration your financial state.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like everyone, just get my pump, just get my my continuous glucose monitor because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to help better in your management and care. But is it affordable to all of us?
Ooh,
When we talk about
yeah.
making insulin affordable to everyone, can we make devices and technology as well?
Mm-hmm.
Can we as persons living with chronic health conditions, can we receive some type of grant, not loan, not financial assistance, a grant that goes towards our health so that we can just be, equitable, like
Or how about
seriously,
just
like
universal healthcare? Universal healthcare would be really, really great. And also the general public not understanding that Walmart insulin is not the same as
right.
insulin you would get from a pharmacy. That actually is not suitable for most type 1 diabetics specifically. I was reading
Hmm.
something about, people are like, oh, just go to Walmart, you can get a vial for $25. First of all, that's not just $25. Most people cannot survive on just one vial of insulin a month.
Right.
Secondly, that is not the same composition as other insulins that are not as affordable.
Mhm.
And so giving the general public access to the information about not all insulins are the same is just really crucial and important. And then also just keeping in mind, I'm always going to plug literacy skills for students across all demographics is essential because if you are illiterate, this disease, the management of this chronic illness is going to
Mhm.
be insurmountable, insurmountable. And I often think about the people who struggle with basic math, basic reading, even understanding the concept of time, right? We have to understand time and how, especially when you're not on a pump or a CGM, the different arcs of long acting versus short acting insulin and how that interacts with your day, how that interacts with your hormones, how that interacts with the food. That doesn't even account for stress or illness. Right. And so it's a complex disease. And if you have any kind of lack in literacy, lack in academic skills, any kind of developmental disorder, even or comprehension related disorder, it's going to be really difficult to manage and to live well. Um, so goodness gracious. I mean, I could talk for
Right. I mean,
days.
just going off of what you said about just the Walmart insulins, like
Mhm,
NPH and regular. That is something
mhm,
that was used 40 years ago when they
mhm,
transitioned from beef and pork to NPH and regular. Like
mhm.
that was, I mean, upon my diagnosis in 2003, I was using that, and then it was dated then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
today, to tell someone who's been on this human insulin that they've been taking for so many years, just
Mhm,
to go to Walmart and take this dated insulin, just as a person living with diabetes, we know that when we change our insulins, it takes upwards of 48 plus hours for our
mhm,
bodies to get used to the new insulin that we are taking.
mhm.
And
And some
just
work better than others.
right. And some it doesn't work for everyone
Yeah, yeah,
at
and
all. And that's the
mm,
insulin that they're prescribing to our animals.
literally,
Like
literally.
literally.
People go to Walmart to get insulin for their cats and their dogs,
Yes.
not for themselves. It's not the same quality. It doesn't have the same impact. And this is a disease where not only do you have to be present and think about now, but you have to think about next year and 10 years from now and 20 years from now. And this does not account for if you have a career that is really heavily physical. And it does not account for if you're female assigned and you are able to have children and you want to have babies. Because you also have to think, okay, if I'm going to have kids, ideally in my 30s, right? That means that I have to be incredibly in tight control before I want to conceive. And even to be able to sustain a pregnancy and not just sustain a pregnancy, what if you want to breastfeed? You have to be strong enough and have enough nutrients in your body and have enough health to be able to do all of those things too. So it's just like the mindfulness, the intentionality that you have to have with your body. Um, if I am being positive, I can really respect and appreciate all the blood work and the paperwork that we constantly get about what's happening inside of us. Actually, I got a call today right before this call, which I knew it was like, this is a sign, this is a good sign, because I was not sure about with everything happening with my mom if I would even be able to do this. But my endocrinologist office called me today and they were giving me updates about my blood work, which is great. My A1C is 6.8. So, that's
Yeah,
good. That's healthy.
congrats.
Thank you. It's good. I want it to be a little bit lower, but it's good. My endocrinologist is happy. I'm healthy. I feel good. I feel strong. So in a lot of ways, us having insights, we get those quarterly, like we mentioned before,
Mhm.
is really helpful in terms of us being on top of things and understanding and preventing other comorbidities. Um, at the same time, it can be daunting and it can be stressful when the numbers don't look how you want them to look and you're doing everything that you possibly can, and or you don't have the resources. And resources are not just financial, but it's having the time and the energy and the social support and a healthy environment to support yourself and the sustainability of this illness too. So it's multifaceted. You can see the good in it. There's a lot of uncomfortable bads in it too. I think you just have to really focus on your mindset. And in order to have an empowered mindset, you have to take care of your mental and emotional health and well being too. And your emotions affect your blood sugar. Ain't that a bitch?
It's beyond. I mean, I remember like just sitting at my daughter's basketball game last year. She's in seventh grade, so she was in sixth grade last
Mhm.
year, and just starting in the basketball game, my blood sugar being at like 88.
Yeah,
Within
yeah.
within
Good.
within within a matter of 15 minutes, it's shooting upwards of 200. And I told, and everyone's like, just breathe. I said, I'm sitting here nice and poised. Like, I'm like, just look at this. I got to set a temp basal to go to a basketball game. As much
Yeah.
as we go through living with type 1 diabetes, like we also have to share that with other people. Like that's daunting. Like now
Yeah.
my family wants to know why I'm doing this so much and compared to
Hmm.
previous years. Like I tell like the reason why I have this technology today is to better my existence for not only the present but for the future as well.
Hmm.
And they're like most people when they see the technology, they're like, "Oh, that means you're doing bad. So now you need
No,
technology."
no, it's
No.
preventive. Mm-mm.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
It's the
Hmm.
complete opposite. Like
Hmm. Yeah. My sisters, they follow me on my CGM. So
look.
if I'm too high or too low, they'll call me. What are you doing? Get some sugar. What are you doing? Drink some water. What's wrong with? Why are you high?
So a bit of back about your background. How many sisters do you actually have?
Oh, this is a fun question. So I have. Okay, wait. Let me count and make sure. I have three biological sisters, one biological brother. Here's the thing. I met my brother on MySpace. Do you remember MySpace back in the
I
day?
do remember MySpace. I didn't use it much except for like music and stuff, but yeah, I
Uh,
remember.
yeah, my brother found me on MySpace when I was like 17 years old. And then I found my newest little sister on ancestry.com. So I'm always having to like reevaluate how many siblings I actually have. 'Cause I have the old number of
And,
siblings and the new number. And
mm,
that doesn't account for like, their partners or my chosen siblings. So yeah, none
yeah,
of them have type 1 diabetes. So
I was going to ask if, like, before you mentioned the MySpace, I was going to say, did you find them on Ancestry.com? Because through Ancestry, I found out so much about myself. And
mhm, mhm.
Ancestry, I am going to plug you in here. If you want to be a sponsor, please, I will reach out to you. And
Reach out to me too, because I have a
yes,
success story for y'all. So,
yes.
Ancestry, hit us up.
Um,
Interview, the Chronically Well podcast. We're here for you, and you can
yeah,
be here for us too. Um,
Ancestry.com actually told me that my great grandmother passed from type 1 diabetes in 1954.
wow,
Yes.
that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I
So,
haven't gotten any information like that. Which also makes me hopeful because I get scared when I think about the generational impact of this. And like I don't have any children yet. I want to have children. But I worry about passing this on to them. And I don't know if any people previously have had it or if it was even diagnosed or anything like that. But I will share this because I think is a really positive perspective to have. My ex-fiance, he was the most attentive partner I've ever had in terms of my type 1 diabetes.
mhm.
And I remember talking to him one day, like, just talking about how it concerns me and it makes me nervous at the thought of potentially having a child who could develop type 1 diabetes. And he said, I'm going to stop you right there. If our children ever had type 1 diabetes, you are the perfect role model for them. The perfect role model. You are healthy, you are strong, you're attentive, and you'll teach them everything they need to know to be healthy with it. And I had that thought. So for anyone who having anxiety about passing this on, there it is. If you're doing the best that you can, you'll be able to also teach your children to do the best that they can, and we can live healthy, full lives.
We can. Today, the current life expectancy is 76 to 78 years as a person not living with diabetes. And a person living with type 1 diabetes, it is also between 74 and 78 years.
That's
So,
pretty good. Hmm.
yeah, it seems like we're about to pass
I think, look, I don't know why y'all
because
can hold
of,
me.
yeah, because of
Technology,
the, yeah.
technology. Yeah,
And I mean, the things that we know about our own body and the fact that we're able to get these quarterly lab withdrawals that they're preventative steps and measures so that we can be
yeah,
at our best.
yeah. I think I'm gonna live a very long life, which is twofold because then that means other people. I'll watch a lot of people I love pass away
Mm.
potentially, but I have this strong inkling that for whatever reason I'm just gonna be this medical anomaly and I'm gonna like be an old lady when I die, which is cool. I don't know how you feel about this. I'm not sure that we're going to see a cure for type 1 diabetes in our lifetime. Um, I've kind of taken that out of my mind.
Now, that's a question that I leave. That's something that I have on my notes for the end of this conversation.
Mm,
But
mm.
we're going to get into that. We're just talking about your background. Did you grow up in the Pittsburgh area?
Yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I went to undergrad here at the University of Pittsburgh. I have 2 degrees for kind of studies in English literature. And so I spent about the first 24 years of my life in the city of Pittsburgh. I've also lived in Dallas, Texas, where I was a teacher and a cheer coach for several years. My Dexcom being loud, sorry. And
I didn't hear it at all.
okay. And I lived in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where I was a teacher for 2 years as well. And so I have lived in two other states, and the care is not the same all across the country. And I hate that for us. Um,
That's horrible.
but
Like,
yeah, and I've traveled a lot. I've traveled around the world a lot, and I have friends who have type 1 diabetes in all different kind of countries. Um, so it's really interesting and often humbling to see how they have to deal with their type 1 diabetes under the circumstances they have. Some are living better than us and some are not. So yeah.
right. Having this opportunity to have this podcast, I've recorded with people in North Africa, South Africa, East
Mm,
Africa, West Africa, like Eritrea, Uganda, um, where else? Sierra Leone,
mm,
like all over. And just to know the differences in healthcare and management is just like, especially for people that look like us, when we
mhm.
already are given the short end of the stick globally,
Yeah.
like
Mhm,
it's truly like appalling. Like my
mhm,
uncle, he will not come back to the US to live. He
mm.
moved to Germany in 1983, went into the military.
Oh, mhm. I'm
And
going to Germany in a few weeks.
what part?
Berlin.
Berlin.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think he's in like Frankfurt
Mhm,
because
mhm.
I was actually born on a Germany and France border,
That's cool.
Rhineland. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. I've been to France too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but my uncle refuses to come back here and live because he's a nurse or in Germany, and he can't believe the effects on like effects and cost of healthcare here in the US. He's like, that's why so many people are dead and
Mhm.
broke. When we talk about like even like mental health and addiction, he
Mhm.
said it's because like people don't look at that great scope of it. Like it's health, like the cost of healthcare, and
Yeah.
like he's like it's horrible. And
It's
he's been trying to get me to come move to Germany for many years. I'm like, not happening. We're going
you
to
know,
struggle. We're going to struggle here until the struggles dry out.
I get it. I can't speak on what it's like to live in Germany. I do have a few people I know who live there. Um, but Europe has seemingly better healthcare in place than the United States of America per se. Um, you know, I that you do bring up an interesting thought. I do feel sometimes that my type 1 diabetes holds me back though, because I think that I would probably be way more open to not living in America if I didn't have it.
Mhm.
I think I'd probably be in the jungles more often. I'd be not attached to the need for technology or the need to be close to places that have hospitals, even. I don't know if you think about things in that perspective, but um, I remember I was staying in a remote village in Nigeria one time with my ex fiance and his family. And I had not a type 1 diabetes situation, but I had an allergic reaction. I had an anaphylactic reaction for the first time in my life because I developed a new allergy. Fun things, right? Fun things that evolve in our bodies that don't necessarily correlate to type 1 diabetes, but that also affect diabetes. So I'm in the middle of this village having an anaphylactic reaction. My throat is closing. I don't know what's happening. And there's no hospitals around. So, they drive me to a nurse's house. This is like the middle of the night. And she gives me some pills. I don't know what those pills were. I don't know what they were. I didn't die. But,
Right.
it really brings to mind that anytime we step outside of the conveniences of first world living, meaning having access to emergency rooms, having access to hospital facilities, or what are those clinics, those little clinics that we have often
Mhm.
all throughout the United States that you can go to if you have an
Right.
emergency.
The different health clinics.
Right. I mean, those are privileges. And for me, I'm always mindful of like, if I go somewhere, am I going to be close to a hospital or am I going to be close to somewhere that has medical facilities that can help me in the event of an
Mhm.
emergency? And so if I didn't have type 1 diabetes, I think I would absolutely be a little bit more adventurous. I would have more money. That's for sure.
Look,
Would have a lot more money to do these adventures.
considering you done lived all over the US and you've traveled outside, I would consider yourself adventurous, but yeah, more adventurous, like being able to just book a flight, hop on a plane with no baggage.
Yeah, yeah.
no luggage at all. Like
No intentionality.
I'm gonna get everything
Mhm.
when I get there and just freely
Yep.
like I mean, even like movies where you see people like just traveling via like carts or trains to and
Hmm.
staying in different hostels, like that's amazing. Like when I think
Yeah.
of I'm like it looks like it's like you're really able to do that like freely.
Yeah, and even if you did do it, for me, I'd be constantly thinking about, okay, I need some juice in case I'm low.
Mm,
I need some alcohol wipes in case I need to do something. Like, it's never just I can just go and be fully present in
right.
what I'm doing. I always have at the very least glucose tablets on me and technology that needs to be charged and considered in connections. I always have when I'm traveling, especially like way more than I need supplies.
Mhm.
Um, and that's just the half of it, you know? So it can really damper people who feel carefree or who would like to be carefree. Nothing is impossible, but it
Right.
definitely requires more consideration and sometimes more resources to be able to be adventurous or to do those adventure type things.
I mean, because one day I will go backpacking through Europe, traveling through the indigenous lands of
Mhm.
Africa, Australia, Oceania. Like I want to do
Mhm.
these things through
Yeah,
Brazil. Like, yeah, me and my kids, we will do this. I know my wife
you
is like,
will.
look, my wife is like, nope. Get us a nice hotel and or on a private island. She loves private islands. We've done that,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
but
Okay. Okay.
there's nothing wrong with that. But I do want to touch the land and go through
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You
be
can.
yep, we will
You
be able
can.
to.
You can and you will. It just will require some intentionality. And I think
Mhm.
that's another thing that can motivate us to stay healthy, right? Because like the longer that we're healthy, the more physical resiliency that we can have. So in the event that, your pump gets ripped out or your CGM gets ripped out, you'll be able to rock a little bit harder and rebound a little bit harder from that versus if you're just kind of out of control more often. Um, so I think it's about setting personal milestones for yourself and having things to look forward to. And yeah, but I
Mhm.
mean, I like to think that my relationship with this disease is transforming for the better and have faith that, like, it's all going to work out in the end.
Right. Like I said, we have the spirit of our ancestors backing us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Seriously, and I truly believe in everything. Like they look over, not only look over us and watch us, but they guide us. They're here in
Hmm.
the presence. I
Yeah.
did want to. What are some of your passions? Like
Well,
like things that you just do and they just make you smile and.
yeah, there's so many. There's a few. This reminds me of a question that I like to often ask people on my podcast too, which is, who are you without your trauma? That's what this question makes me think of. And so my passions, or rather who I am without my trauma and without the responsibilities that I hold, is I love writing poetry and plays. I'm really good at those things. I've won awards for them and I've been commissioned rather to create art. So I am an artist and I get that from both of my parents. I love fashion. Oh, fashion is so fun to me. I love international travel. Ugh, the foreigner, the better. The farther, the better. The more remote, the cooler.
Mhm.
I love going on adventures and being in nature outside of America. I don't know, as a Black person in America, I feel safer in other countries. And so I think that's another reason too. Like it's just another layer of safety that I feel outside of the United States of America, which for many probably sounds contradicting, but for me, not so much.
It's not so
Um,
contradicting when I think of it, because I've also reflected on this in the past that I mean, being here in the US, like there's so many things as just a Black person being here that we
mhm,
truly don't know, like how the interactions will transpire when we are
mhm.
just living life. But
Yeah.
when we travel abroad, when they see like you're an American or they know
Mhm.
that you're an American, they treat you to a certain like almost like a hierarchy. Like,
Yeah, there's a privilege in our
yeah,
passport. There's absolutely
like
for sure.
we can't do nothing to that American because I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
There's a lot of preconceived notions, good and bad, about what it means to
Right.
be an American or a Black American. We can save that for another podcast
Mhm.
though. I think the last thing is I'm very much a nerd, so I love learning. I was a teacher at one point in time. I love learning. I think I'll be a lifelong learner and a lifelong teacher. But my specific interests are epigenetics and the impact of epigenetics on myself now, but also like my ancestral lineage and the things that they experienced and endured. I don't know if you've ever heard this theory very quickly about type 1 diabetes being related to the sweetness or sadness of your mother.
I
And
haven't.
so I was reading this. I'll have to find it and share it with you. But the meta spiritual, basically, like connection between type 1 diabetes is that your mother had some kind of issue with experiencing the sweetness in life or the softness in life and didn't have balance in like the good and the bad, basically. And so that transpires and manifests itself as type 1 diabetes. I found it to be really interesting. Um, and something else that I look into is like the metaphysical connection between the mind, body, and the spirit. So not just the scientific aspect of disease, but also what are the spiritual aspects of disease? What are the astrological teachings of this disease? What are the other aspects of this illness? Just taking it all into consideration. I find that to be something I can nerd out about and read and talk about for hours and hours and hours. And it helps me to cope with it too and to better understand it and to have more compassion. When I understand things, I have more compassion for them. And so the more I understand about it, the less I hate it.
That's the first
Yeah.
I've actually heard of that, but I do like share that with people on like the experiences of our
Hmm.
ancestors, how they do transition into our own physical
Hmm.
well-being and health as well. So I did
Yeah.
do a quick Google search on that, and it says spiritual intelligence may be associated with self-management of type 1 diabetes.
Mm.
In this cross-sectional study, spiritual intelligence was a significant predictor of management in patients with type 1. And
Mm.
that's just management. That doesn't even go into like before even management, just being
Yeah.
diagnosed with a chronic health condition.
Hmm. Hmm.
You did mention a few things that I circle to highlights to make sure that we did get to talk about during this conversation. Now, one of them, I've spoken to maybe two or three persons so far during these conversations that also grew up in foster care.
Hmm.
And I did want to know has foster care like affected you um, as the affected you to being the person that you are today?
Yeah. We could talk for hours about this. I'll try to keep it brief though, for the sake of time. I think that actually foster care afforded me a lot of medical privilege because when I was in foster care, I had doctor's appointments that were routinely scheduled. I had medication that I was able to access that was paid for by the Department of Health. Um, and so, in that regard, I was able to have consistent medical access and medical care and medical treatment, and a lot of people paying attention to my health and my wellness, in addition to my own, you know, passion for being healthy and being well. I'm grateful, though, that I was not diagnosed as a young child because there was a lot of inconsistency in my childhood. I was moved around a lot. I spent 17 years in foster care. So I just feel that inconsistency would have been really difficult as a small child or a young child.
Were you in
Who,
foster care until you aged out?
yes, and that was also really, really hard too. So from the age of 4 to 21, I was in foster care on again, off again. So I would maybe live with my mom for 6 months and then she'd get sick again and we'd go back into foster care for a year and a half. And then as a teenager, I was in kinship care. I lived with my aunt for several years. Um, until I went to college. And then I had lived in a few different placements before I ultimately aged out at the age of 21. Not because I was ready, not because I'd graduated college, but just because at 21 they kick you out. So what happened when I aged out was that I lost all of my health insurance. I had to apply for Medicaid and I was denied several times. So when I aged out, I actually wasn't able to like have everything I needed. I remember I went a few weeks without checking my blood sugar because I just couldn't afford to get the things that I needed to do it. I was just rocking out on how I felt. I was like, do I feel high? Do I feel low? If I felt low, I'd treat it. If I didn't, I just kept going. And that is literally how some people end up dead, right? And rest in peace to those who have lost their lives because they couldn't access the things they needed to access. But it was a really tumultuous time for me. And like I said before, I don't know if we'd be having this conversation. I don't know if I'd have type 1 diabetes if I didn't have the trauma of being in child welfare for 17 years, almost 2 decades of my life. So, in a lot of ways, it saved me, but in a lot of ways, it did a grand disservice to me. Here's the thing. I ultimately believe that everything truly happens
Happens
for a
for a reason.
reason. Yeah, and I truly believe that one of my purposes and callings in life is to simply exist to show other people that things are possible. And so I've been given this illness because I can handle it, because I have an innate interest in health and well-being, because I can actually step up to the plate and manage these things and still thrive and live well and show other people that, yes, it is an adversity, but it's not an insurmountable thing. Am I in love with that concept? Not always. No. The heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? But do I acknowledge the privilege that I've experienced in the past, in the present, and in the future in terms of having everything that I have to be able to be healthy with this disease? I do. I do, and I think representation matters. And I would hope that somewhere, some little brown child, some Black child can see me who has type 1 diabetes, or who was in foster care, or who had difficult family relationships, or who was the only Black or brown kid in an all white school, an all white community, an all white city, can look at me and say, "Hey, if Ivory did it, maybe I can do it too." And so
And they will be able to.
yeah, yeah.
Just to give a quick reflection on just having this conversation with you in general. You are a beam of light that will shine through, and just
Thank you.
just being here in your presence has also helped myself even consciously just think about others, because I'm a true empath at heart. That's why I like do the
Mm,
things that I do, and I
yeah.
see that you are as well,
Mhm.
because we know that the world doesn't revolve around us. Like
Mm-mm.
sympathy is one thing, to feel sorrow for someone going through something,
Mhm.
but empathy truly helps you embody um, the actual inner workings of what got them to that point, such as
Mhm.
our ancestral background. We didn't choose to be here.
Mhm.
Our
Mhm.
ancestors didn't choose to be here. We didn't choose to be in this body living with this health condition. But
Mhm.
knowing that our ancestors did all that they could, like
Mhm.
seriously did all that they could to make
Yeah,
it, just to live, like tells us
absolutely.
today that we can continue ourselves doing all that we can. And today, we can fight.
Yeah, yeah.
We can fight for our lives,
Mhm. Mhm.
fight for
Mhm.
the lives of our future generations.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
we're 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 going to forever be climbing that ladder to success, reaching
Mhm.
to reach to that equitable stance in life, because we didn't choose to be here.
Yeah, yeah,
But you are
yeah.
truly gifting the community just by your shared experience of a person who's not only, like you do speak of, like the existence of your background and everything, and but also someone who's been through foster care, but you now have like multiple degrees. You're
Mhm.
doing the work that is beneficial to our communities. You're
Mhm.
changing the trajectory. You have, I'm sure, changed the trajectory of not only children and youth that you've worked with and dealt with and helped, but their families as well. Because now mom is like looking at their child like, oh, now like you're smiling now.
Mm, mhm.
There's once that light shines there, it's going to shine within the entire family and then into the community. And now
Yeah,
those teachings that you've been able to gift to these students will not only just stand there.
yeah.
So yes, I
Thank
truly
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, as an educator, that it's often a thankless job. So thank you for acknowledging that and holding space for that. And I think that the older I get, the more I'll understand the difficult things that I've experienced, right? And we all have difficult things. We all have unavoidable lessons. Um, but I think it's what we choose to do with them that really matters the most. And also giving yourself grace when you don't feel like you've shown up in the way that you want to show up. Grace and time can really, really take you far. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
Considering you spent 17 years in the system, like
yeah,
literally in the system, and you were diagnosed at 16 years old. That
hmm,
was 12 years into the system. Do,
yeah,
do you remember? I know you remember life before diabetes. We talked about
yeah,
that early on, but like when you were diagnosed,
yeah,
could you give me a quick, or not even quick, just give me a summary and as much as you want about that diagnosis, because I know that
yeah,
it is a
yeah.
traumatic experience.
It is such a traumatic experience, and I'm trying to honor how it's even making me feel in my body right now. I'm feeling it like in my gut. That's how intense it is to think about that night. I also wrote a piece that I'll share with you if you're interested in reading it on the
Mm.
adultification and parentification of Black girls and child welfare, because I feel like I can't talk about my diagnosis without talking about the already existing
Mhm.
adultification and parentification that I faced, meaning that
Do you know my friend Taylor?
Taylor, what's Taylor's last name?
I don't want to say it on here.
Okay, yeah.
But
I know some Taylors, but
Taylor in Austin. She's in Austin, Texas.
wait a minute.
You
Does Taylor
remind
write a lot about the sexual health and child welfare and
sh
sex education?
she does, but she's a type 1 diabetic, also woman of color. And this whole conversation, like I'm like, am I speaking with Taylor?
I might. I actually might have
She's
to say
amazing
that.
being just like yourself. And off air, if you do not know Taylor, I'm going to share it with
Please
you,
connect
Taylor,
us.
because you need to
Yeah,
get, yes.
feel free to connect us. I've worked with someone who sounds like Taylor, so I could, but I've worked with a lot of people, so I might be confusing. Um, But long story short, for those who don't know, adultification is when children have to take on adult responsibilities. And that's something I experienced since the age of 4. When I was first put in foster care, I had a social worker look at me and say, "You need to take care of your sister who is 2 years old," as a 4-year old. So that's when the adultification, the parentification came into play. Parentification is when children assume the roles of parents for not only their siblings, but their own parents and the adults in their lives. And so I've experienced both since the age of 4. And I say that because the night that I was diagnosed, I was 16 years old. I was running in track, and this is the day of. I was running in track, and I was like, oh my God, why can I not breathe? Because remember, like I said before, I was really into athleticism. I was doing track for months and months before my diagnosis. I was a dancer. I was dancing every single week for hours. I was playing all kinds of sports. I was working out in the gym. It was really strange that I actually couldn't breathe during this normal track practice that I do all the time. So that was the first clue. It was like almost like asthmatic breathing issues, right? So I'm like, I think something's not okay. I'd also been drinking a lot of water and having very clear urine. And I was like, this is weird. Like, it's just really, really, really weird. I would have to take breaks from class to go get water and go to the bathroom. And that's not something I had normally experienced. So my grandmother had type 2 diabetes. And so I checked my blood sugar with her glucometer and I was 400. And we called my PCP and I had to go get my blood sugar checked. Again, it was 400 at the office. And he looked at me and he was like, y'all need to go to the emergency room right now. So I go to the emergency room. I'm sitting in the room. They're like, we think you have type 1 diabetes. I'm like, ooh, okay, type 1. I don't know what that is. But type 2, I've heard of that before. And I thought that I was doing what I could do to prevent that, right? With losing the weight and being healthy. And they're like, okay, you're admitted to the hospital. This is a PSA for any parents, any caregivers dealing with people diagnosed with illnesses. Do not leave people in the hospital by themselves. I was left in the hospital by myself overnight. The first night, it was an endocrinology ward that shared floors with an oncology ward. So it was cancer patients in the children's hospital with endocrine patients, right? So my first night, this little Black boy who was experiencing like chemotherapy and cancer stuff, he freaks out. He's running down the hallway with his IV. It's like ripping out of his arm. So there's like blood squirting everywhere. And I'm laying in bed by myself, like trying to accept that, like, dang, I got diabetes, even though I did everything I could to not get it. Like, here I am, and I'm alone as a 16-year-old. And it goes back to that adultification and parentification. Like, for whatever reason, the adults in my life didn't think I needed support in that time when I did. So don't leave people alone when they're in the hospital. It was hard, really hard.
Yeah. You were a child.
Yeah.
You were even a child when you phased out of foster care at
Yes.
21 years old. Seriously.
hmm
We know that. And you were put in a position and given a role that you didn't ask for. It's almost like if you were to have a championship contending sports team and you have Michael Jordan or you have LeBron James on your team, but on this day, you decide you're going to have the person who just made the roster based on we need a 12th or 15th man or woman be the star player. And you're at the championships, you're at the finals, like the finals are your life. Like there is no way you can expect that child to take on all these roles and just be okay and well.
Yes, that's the part.
Like
We talked about the trauma-informed therapist needing to be a part of that critical care team. Absolutely.
Yes.
That needs to be a standard procedure.
It's a need. And I've been speaking with multiple people who, like myself, who do work in public health on getting that into, because like you said, we don't have universal health care here. So just being able to advocate and get that in each physician's office. Seriously, each emergency care facility, whether it's a hospital, urgent care, outpatient treatment, like those things need to be there, because upon a diagnosis of a chronic health condition, chronic meaning forever, like it needs to be there, because if our physical health is there forever, our mental health is there forever as well.
Yeah. And the impact of our mental health, it affects our blood sugars. If we're happy, if we're sad, if we're anxious, if we're uncertain, and that doesn't even account for the time in life that I was in developmentally, physically, right? Like all of the hormonal shifts and changes that not only were happening as a 16-year-old, but that I would go into in the 20s, which is kind of just like a roller coaster in terms of our physical development and progression. And it's alongside the pre-existing issues of my life of having been in foster care, having a disenfranchised family structure, being marginalized in my identity, not only as a Black person in America, but as a woman in America, never having experienced childhood. You know, I didn't get to be carefree. I didn't get to be I didn't get to play, to be frank. I remember I do not enjoy cooking because I've been cooking since I was 7 years old. I've been cleaning entire houses and cooking for entire households since I was 7 years old. I'm 34 this year. So like, you know, it's just some things lose their appeal when you've had to be responsible for them for basically your entire life. And I think one of the biggest gifts that I've had to give myself back and that I've had to acknowledge and grieve is that need for play. So when I talk about going on adventures, when I talk about traveling the world, I'm really giving back to my inner child. I'm saying, hey, little Ivory, it's time to play. You want to jump off this waterfall? Go ahead, babe.
Right,
Because you didn't get to do it when you were little.
Yeah, as a child, you weren't given the opportunity to just be a child, do the normal things that kids did, just smile and just laugh, and just those small things that truly people can understand, like the personality of a child. You were forced to have the personality of an aged being, an aged person of color.
I wrote this in that piece that I'm going to share with you. People have been talking to me like a 57-year-old woman my entire life. I have never been spoken to like I was a child, even as a child. At 4 years old, someone looked at me and said, take care of your little sister. At freaking 4 years old. That's insane.
It's beyond
I have nieces
insane.
and nephews now. I have babies in my community, in my village, who I take very seriously for care for and consideration of, right? And right now I live with my 10-year-old nephew in his room because last year was just a crazy year in my life. But in saying that, I'm getting to see what appropriate childhood experiences should be. And the more I'm realizing and grieving the childhood that I never had.
Right. Keep reiterating that appropriate childhood experiences. Like seriously.
Appropriate childhood experiences. Like, I don't ever remember feeling as carefree or protected for or as safe as the children in my life currently do. They have so much joy, meaning they have the capacity to play and to feel safe enough to play. And as educators, we know that play is an important part of learning. It's an important developmental part of gaining knowledge and retaining knowledge, right? And fortunately, for whatever reason, I was still able to do that in terms of grades. But who knows how much more I would have done that if I actually was able to be a kid, if I was actually protected, if I was actually considered, if I actually was able to just have unencumbered joy. Who knows? Who knows if I wouldn't have type 1 diabetes if I got to play?
I mean, even through your young adulthood, you didn't get the opportunity to be carefree. Today,
No,
you don't have the opportunity to be carefree.
no.
Like over the last 18 years now, you've been managing 10 other babies, and those aren't physical babies.
They
Those are
don't,
the
they're not cute. They
those are
don't
the
grow up.
babies. Those are the babies of chronic health conditions. Like
Mhm, mhm.
seriously, they don't grow up, but they grow with you, and
Yeah.
they're very needy. Like
They're very needy.
very
My
needy,
God.
and they
Very
won't
needy.
stop the whining.
They can't stop, won't stop Rockefeller Records.
Look, can't stop. Look, for real. Like it's
They just don't
crazy.
they don't let up. You can depend on your type 1 diabetes to cut up
Right.
all.
It's like they're in rotation. Like no matter what, you can put a stone in there to stop it. It's going to pick that stone up and push it down a hill. Like you can't stop me. Like
Major toddler energy.
like
Major.
yeah, it's crazy. And
It's crazy. Yeah.
you've been having to do this to take on the blunt of this since as far back as you can remember.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
before diabetes, and at the moment you were diagnosed, while you were telling your story, I was thinking like when you finally had that chance to be in that hospital
Yeah.
and just even though you were given this chronic health diagnosis, like I was wondering like did Ivy finally get a chance to breathe?
I had to take a deep breath with that. Um, no. I haven't had a chance to breathe until recently, to be honest with you. It took 30 years to get there. I feel like um last year was one of the second worst year of my entire life, second to only the year that my mother almost died. And we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. It was just a really complicated year full of a whole bunch of things that no one should have to deal with at the age of 20. And so I lost my uncle, who was like my father figure. He unexpectedly died um, in a motorcycle accident. This man was 80, almost 80 years old. He was convinced that he needed this motorcycle and that was the thing for him. But long story short, he ended up dying unexpectedly. And I also was laid off last year. So it was just like a conundrum of unavoidable things. Right. And
Let's
that
take this
really,
moment to reflect and honor the being that was your uncle, because even though you were just speaking about him passing, I saw a smile on your face. So he kept you lit during
yeah,
those dark times, and
yeah. He,
uh,
that was my road dog,
Ace
really.
Ace Boon Coon.
He was. He sent me insulin before. He was
Look,
just everything. He was awesome.
he is
Um,
awesome.
so last year was just difficult. It was so difficult. And sorry.
It's fine. I mean, I know that just during this conversation, and I know that just living with chronic health condition, and that's on top of your lifelong trauma, there's a lot of bottled energy and emotion that you have not truly been able to or gifted the opportunity to just let out, release, and reflect on. I'm sure over the last year, you've truly been able to reflect on it. And hopefully that helps you in your own healing journey and process. And your healing journey and process may not be individually just for yourself. It will be for the future of your offspring, whoever you decide to have a relationship with, your partner, your family, your young nephews and nieces, and all of those
Yeah.
things. So it's a part of their education is an ongoing thing that never ends. The education
I,
of healing is
yeah.
forever.
Oh, it's forever and it's cyclical. You don't just do
Yes.
it once and you're done with it. It's a cyclical thing. It's an intergenerational thing. And so when we heal ourselves in the slightest, we also heal future generations and we can also
Yes.
heal previous generations. It's something that people have to opt into. But I say all that to say is yes, last year was a really difficult year full of a lot of loss and grief, but I think that that loss catapulted me into really being intentional about my mental and emotional health and well-being. I mean, I've been intentional my entire adulthood about my mental and emotional health and well-being, but there's something about losing a lot of things very rapidly that will kind of have you prioritize that in a new way through a new lens. And so last year it was almost like I have nothing left but to focus on this. I have nothing left but to process these years and years and years of stored trauma. I have nothing left but to add to this grief and to give space to this grief it was almost like a catalyst, if you will, the death of my uncle and the loss of my job in terms of opening the floodgates to allow me to be familiar with and comfortable with the other grief in my life. And so also being home with my sisters, they have been in a really just, I can never repay them for it, the love they've poured into me and the support they provide me with. But it allowed me to prioritize my health holistically in a different way, in a new way. It's been difficult because, like we talked about before, I'm not making the same amount of money that I was, um, in, in addition to all of our general supplies, our pumps, our insulin, our Dexcoms, our CGMs, whatever, there's also vitamins and minerals. There's also healthy food. There's also a thing like getting massages. There's also things, like gym memberships that people don't account for, but that are really critical components of living healthy and living strong and living vibrantly with type 1 diabetes. And so I haven't always had all of the money that I've wanted in the last year to be able to do that. But I am really grateful for the resources that I have had access to and the attention that has been called to me and placed on my heart to focus on it. Um, so when you talk about taking a deep breath, yeah, I feel like I've been able to take some deep breaths this year. Um, there's something about feeling like you've lost everything that kind of gives you a new perspective on the things that you do have and the things that you want to have. And so taking a deep breath really came from working with my therapist a lot. Taking a deep breath came from prioritizing getting back on track physically. The amount of cortisol that I feel like I experienced last year, cortisol. Okay, that's a stress chemical, a stress hormone. I have been intentionally doing things to reduce my cortisol levels. I felt so puffy and swollen last year, and I've lost like 35, going on 40 pounds probably already. But I think a lot of that was just stress, just the stress and like feeling puffy from stress, feeling swollen from stress, feeling aged from stress is not a fun thing. And so, alongside of addressing the physical impact of the stress hormones in my body, the cortisol buildup came, okay, that's a symptom, but what is the root cause of that? And so that looks like examining grief and my uncle's death and my job loss being catalysts for looking at not only just those issues of grief, but the grief of my childhood, the grief of the body I once knew before type 1 diabetes, the radical acceptance of everything as it is. Just accept it. Just accept your type 1 diabetes. Just accept foster care. Just accept your family dynamics. Just accept not having a job or not having the job that pays you what you want to have. Just accept living in a city that you don't like. Just radically accept it and be present for that and give yourself permission to complete that cycle of emotion, right? Give myself permission to cry. Give myself permission to be vulnerable. Give myself permission to be in community. Um, the all of those things allowed me to kind of just take a deep breath. And I think it's going to be cyclical, right? And sometimes it'll be harder than others in terms of taking deep breaths with type 1 diabetes specifically. But I definitely have reached a new level of maturity with living with type 1 diabetes. I have a deepened gratitude for the privilege that I have living with type 1 diabetes and the things that I have access to, whether that be just share knowledge and experience to be able to navigate it, whether that be having a community that understands the importance of me having the things that I need to have, access to the things that I need to have, and knowledge to access those things. and the discipline and consistency to leverage those things in my daily life, right? Because this is a daily thing. It's not a weekly or a monthly or a yearly thing. This is a daily, minute by minute disease. You mentioned something earlier that really made me think every day that we wake up and live is a choice for us as type 1 diabetics, right? Because we could take the wrong amount of insulin and be dead in a few minutes. So I don't know if people understand or realize that every moment we are alive is an intentional moment of life, an intentional choice to be here and to keep trying, even on your darkest days, even on the days when you feel terrible, even on the days when you are at the deepest depths of grief, of loss, of feeling like no one understands, feeling like people don't appreciate their own bodies. I don't know if you ever felt that. If I look at people sometimes who like don't have type 1 diabetes and I'm like, you don't freaking understand the privilege that you have just because your pancreas works. You don't have to take medicine every day for anything. Like you can go outside and run right now until you can't breathe and your lungs feel like batteries and nothing bad will happen to you. Like the privilege and watching other people destroy themselves basically. I digress, but just really honoring the totality of the experience of what it means to be a human, living with type 1 diabetes, what it means to have privilege, living with type 1 diabetes, what it means to grieve alongside having type 1 diabetes, but also what it means to have joy and what it means to create a legacy that will inherit that joy and that will inherit all of the beautiful things that this disease steps up to the plate and makes us be and do.
Thank you for that that true gift of message that you've been able to just share with our community, because I circled on my paper a while ago the age 16, and when I reflect on me at 16 and the things that I was involved in and did, and now I think about you at 16 being given that diagnosis and not being given the resources just to be at your continued best. You had to go back to school. You probably were in what, 10th or 11th grade or so.
I was in 10th grade. I was at the top of my class in 10th grade. Yeah. I
Had
think
to
I was
go
like
back
number
to
3.
school. And now people are like, why was Ivory out of school for so long? And you may have not wanted them to know or to tell them, or on your own. You may have wanted to tell them on your own, but now entering the school building, the word is already out there that Ivory was in the hospital. She has diabetes, and now in school, they're not given the resources or information or education on what type 1 diabetes is. So you have young people and adults alike that already have a perceived notion on who Ivory is. And now she has diabetes and all of these other traumatic experiences that are keep on adding on and adding on, and no one's coming to your defense. So I just wanted to let you know that 16-year-old Ivory, 20-year-old Will, we didn't have those people who came to our defense. Even like growing up, we were forced into roles of being adults at a very young age. But again, 16-year-old Ivory, I must reiterate to you that you were more than resilient. Like you, from that age, upon and given this diagnosis, I don't know how the first few years were for you as they were for me, but today in this space, as we talk about how you've reflected over this last year, over those years in experience of trauma, and how you are in a better space today, I do know that on this platform and having the being able to communicate with you today, I know that you are at a better space with diabetes as well. So you are. I do not like bringing up the term resilience often because it's like it's
It's a
overpowered,
complicated
overplayed.
word.
Yeah.
And it can often take the responsibility off of
Right.
the community to support people and put it onto the individual, which is like the complete opposite of what resilience actually is and should
Yes.
be. But it is something that can acknowledge the individual strength it requires to overcome adversity. And so I receive it as you shared it. I don't see it as a bad thing.
Okay.
I hold the nuance of its definition and its understanding. But I appreciate you for seeing me. I think in those early years, I felt very alone, very isolated, and I felt very betrayed by God, by the universe. You know, I was like, I did everything I could to not have to deal with this, and here I am dealing with a worse version of this.
Right.
And so I felt very alone until I found my community at the age of
Mhm.
20. And through that one person, that one diabesity, I was able to be ushered into a world of people living with this disease. And I'm grateful. You mentioned something earlier, Will. I don't know if you got to experience this or not, but I didn't have any Ivories or Wills to look up to.
Not
And
at
like I
all.
said, the people who represented type 1 diabetes, the face of type 1 diabetes, they were always white people. They were always skinny white girls. They were not they were not curvy, they were not thick, they were not brown, they were not black. And so it makes a difference in terms of how you experience this disease. The representation matters. And like I said before, I'd like to just think that we serve as positive role models and positive examples of possibilities for different ways you can manage this disease and still live well and still be a whole person. So, you know,
I commend you on everything you've done throughout your life and throughout your experience as a person, just a human in general, because you've escaped and you're now hopefully in the near future be gaining or gifted that reward because of the life and the experiences that you've gone through. Like now, you are that
yeah,
LeBron James, that Michael Jordan, who is going to carry that championship trophy and have all the other like the young people,
yeah,
even people of in our age groups. There are so many people that are going through traumatic experiences on a regular day to day.
yeah,
Persons like us, they'll be able to reflect on and see this mirrored image and also grab that baton and get their own trophy in life.
yeah.
Um, so as I wind down, I do want to tell you, like, I appreciate you for being here. And this is a note that I must leave on with you because you spoke about it a while ago about a cure.
Mm,
So listen to me, Ivory. We're down to
what's
about 4 minutes.
okay?
Um, on the day a cure is here. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Is here, meaning that this magical diabetes unicorn sprinkled its fairy dust on the world, and you wake up and diabetes has been fully eradicated,
Mm.
like it's gone here. What do you do?
I cry from joy because I imagine that would feel the same way that the slaves felt when they were freed. Um, which sounds like a really dramatic correlation, right? But this feels like such a bondage sometimes. And so the imagery of freedom that I would feel within my own body, the imagery of freedom that I would feel for the collective would just be such a beautiful thing that words could not capture. So crying with joy, and then also just the excitement. I cannot wait for the day that I can wake up, go outside and take a walk for as long as I want to take a walk for. And I don't have to eat or carry sugar on me to do that. I look forward to running as hard and as fast and as long as I want to the point to where my lungs feel like batteries. And I stop because my body is telling me to stop, not because I'm hypoglycemic, but because I just have reached my maximum capacity, and that's enough. I look forward to being able to jump off as many waterfalls as I can and want to, without having to worrying about my medical devices ripping off and having to pay for them and having to get them and secure them. I look forward to that, Jade, that I just feel physically liberated from this disease. I think I'm close to being mentally liberated from this disease. Definitely not financially liberated because the shackles are real. But I look forward to the physical freedom that exists in life without type 1 diabetes. I do. I look forward to that.
Ivory, I thank you for gracing me and community with your presence here on the Chronically Will podcast. This is where we hold real conversations with community that need to be heard, and you are someone that needs to be heard. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I appreciate you too. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.